Slight hiccup at the start of the programme, but you can't be fantastic all the time. This is Morganistic from an LP called Fluids Amniotic, which I think are the things that your kind of brain and that sort of thing floats in. It's on Input Neuron Music Records, Crimes and Misdemeanors, and this is Autohaze.
Someone to believe us. A moment that's gone from a day on the river to a night in the city of song. But the hero is wrong. Are you losing your mind? Are you losing your mind? Are you wasting your time around here? What's happened to me? Oh, I was talking to my doctor, who said I've been shot, but the man in the mirror smiles and says you don't know what you got. Undefined, underplot. Are you losing your mind? Are you losing your mind? Are you wasting your time?
On Summershine, thank you very much. On Summershine Records, that's Autohaze and Way Out There. I was getting my bodily fluids mixed up in case you were thinking of writing to tell me that I had done so, or we're going to phone the BBC to point it out. Amniotic fluids, of course, are the things that you're born in, and heaven knows I should know enough that I've waded through it often enough. And the stuff that I was thinking of was cerebrospinal fluid, and I should have known that as well, because mine all fell out one night when I was knocked off my bike by a hit-and-run driver. The first coming up now from Lauren Hyde, drums, Anthony Lynch, bass, Jonathan Barrett, percussion and vocals, Jules McClellan on guitar and vocals. Thrush Puppies, this is Offside.
Keep on
The sound of angst-ridden Northwich Cheshire. That's the Thrush Poppies in session, the first of them. Very good stuff too. That's called Offside, and they wrote me, well, an impudent letter in that I was about to read it to you without having checked it, and then I had a quick look at it, and it's going to need a bit of editing before I can read it to you on the radio, I think. This is Bad Man.
So no one take it personal. Send for the new gun. Send for the new gun. Send for the new gun. the new gun. Send for the new gun.
That's Bad Man, the title of the track I'm a bit uncertain about, but it's on IQ Records anyway. And as you probably know, well, perhaps you don't, but it's Elvis's 60th birthday this week. And I say it is because, of course, he's still alive, as I'm sure you realise. And you may have seen some of the films over the holiday period, some of his films, which are by and large appalling, I have to say. And some of the early ones, you know, were kind of had their moments, but the later ones really strictly terrible. And you may have assumed that that was the way Elvis was all of his life, but he really wasn't, because he used to be like this.
Just want to treat me right. You like to ball every morning, don't come home till late at night.
Elvis, before he became chucklesome with Lordy Miss Claudie, highest chart position, the computer tells me, number 15 in 1957.
As the leader of the disposable heroes of hypocrisy, Michael Franti made his mark as rap's radical conscience. His new outfit, Spearhead, is just as outspoken, hard-hitting and witty, and they're in session this Sunday night on the Kershaw programme. Our other guest is Eddie Lejeune, the authentic voice of the Louisiana Bayou and Cajun music's greatest accordionist. 2 top sessions and a pile of glamorous records. With Andy Kershaw, 10 till midnight, Sunday, BBC Radio 1 FM.
And added since that trail was made is a repeat of his first ever session from Ted Hawkins as a tribute to the great American country soul and blues star who died last Sunday. In session we have, in addition to the Thrush Puppies, Smog, This Is My Family.
In the past
Excellent. That's Smog in session, My Family. More from them later on. The line up, Bill Callahan, guitar, keyboards and vocals. Cynthia Dahl or Dahl, not quite sure how you should pronounce it, guitar and vocals. Ron Burns at the drums. And what else was I going to tell you? Oh, yes. On Friday the 13th, the Black Dog are in session, and they go like this. Black Dog in session shortly from their LP Spanners, and this is on Warp Records, and it's spelled Tar. I mean, it's called Tar, spelled T-A-H-R, and I'm not quite sure what that means, and I've tried to see if it's an anagram for anything. Heart spelt incorrectly, and Tha, which is Southern American for there, but I don't think that's what they intended at all. It's 10:30 on 24 Hour 1FM, and Lucy Williams has the news.
Broken out between prison officers and the prison service, who say staff are disrupting the inquiry into the Parkhurst breakout. The Staff Association says its members are prepared to give written statements but are reluctant to give oral evidence to an internal inquiry. The 3 criminals who escaped are still at large. An independent inquiry has found that disabled people living in a Swansea home were subjected to a life of misery and degradation. The manager and 4 members of staff have been suspended. Hugh Gardner of West Glamorgan Social Services says the authority's doing all it can to make sure it doesn't happen again.
All I can say is that we will do everything in our power to set processes in train that make sure that it never happens again. We will do our best to ensure that, and I think on our track record in other homes, in other care situations, we have every reason for confidence that we'll be successful.
One of Britain's leading veal calf exporters is likely to appeal against a conviction for cruelty to animals. Albert Hall Farms in North Yorkshire was fined £12,000 and ordered to pay another £10,000 costs. Edinburgh could become the first city in Britain to ban cars in residential areas. A pilot scheme's being planned for 1998 so people can choose to live in car-free zones. The idea is to ease traffic congestion in the Scottish capital, where car ownership's been increasing at twice the national average. Here's Penny Murphy.
City planners want to ban cars from parts of Edinburgh within the next 3 years. They say car-free areas will be safer for residents and better for the environment. One area being considered is the site of the Royal Infirmary, which is due to move. The empty buildings could be used to create a village within a city.
A man from Basildon in Essex has been jailed for 3 years after biting off the ear of a man who asked him to stop smoking in a railway carriage. Snaresbrook Crown Court heard that Peter Corty spat the ear onto the floor of the carriage. It was later sewn back on. That's it. I'll be back in an hour.
Particularly good, I think. Those are Huevos Rancheros and Jezebel, and that's from an EP on Demolition Derby Records out of Belgium, with Belgium's Vice Barons on the other side of it. And that was a big hit, actually, a vocal version of it for Frankie Howard. For Frankie, blimey, that would be... I'd like to have heard that, actually. For Frankie Lane when I was a lad. If ever the devil was born without a pair of horns, it was you, Jezebel. Something like that, anyway. Free Kitten.
You think you're a loser, baby, but you drive all the girls crazy. You're not too
That's Free Kitten and a track from their LP Nice Ass on Ouija Records. Rock of Ages is the title of it. And earlier this evening on 1FM, that nice Pedro Tong, as he's known to his millions of Spanish listeners, played a track from the LP by Hard Floor. Here's another one. On Hart House Records from the LP Respect, this is Hard Floor, Kangaroos and Bubbles. Another one from the Thrush Pop is coming up in just a moment. I've read the letter that they sent, and the first part of it's not entirely relevant, I have to say, and it's all about front bottoms anyway, so we'll press on to the bit that says the Thrush Poppies will be playing the following warm-up dates before their February tour. I haven't got the actual tour dates yet, but I'll fax them nearer the time, says Jules. They're playing in Oldham at the Shack on Friday the 20th of January with the Flatback 4, at Preston Adelphi on Thursday the 26th of January, and Manchester the Roadhouse on Friday the 3rd of February. Did I say February before? January. It was Thursday the 26th of January, Preston Adelphi. February the 3rd, Manchester Roadhouse with Flatback 4 and Emperor Julian. Shallow Ladybird is our double A side single to be released on Valentine's Day, the 14th of February this year. My goodness me. It'll be available in the form of 1,000 red vinyl 7-inch singles and CD. The CD will have 2 extra tracks. And if you enjoyed listening to our session half as much as we enjoyed doing it, you'll be a happy, happy man. Well, that's a good attitude to have, I think. From the Thrush Poppies, May Queen.
Somebody the week coming down with me, no matter what the world may ever say. Me say me have a little girl named of June, but a baby gonna take a little trip to the moon. Come on now, make me ride on the weather balloon. But I saw me if we bring a little pot and a spoon. But I tell you, say me have a little girl by the name of June. Say now downtown, figure by yard, but this a weather balloon in a different style, yo. Weather balloon in a the computerized. Weather balloon, the veteran him still a it, yes. With the balloon, I make we step and move and glide, and this a with the balloon, yeah. But that's how me say, but this a with the balloon, yeah. But that's how me say, cause if you sick or you lame or say no, but we get too crazy. When I beg you, baby, you got to believe me, this a with the balloon, yeah. But that's how me say, but this a with the balloon, yeah. See, that's how me say, me have a little girl named June. But a baby gonna take a little trip to the moon. Come on, I'll make her ride on board with a balloon. But that's how me say, we bring a little pot and a spoon. Now tell me about no cow jump over no moon. No worry, think that if it's a run him a fool. I tell you, Daddy Brown him graduate from good school. Me know how to play that, me know what me cool. I tell you this a with the balloon. Tell you this a with the balloon. You know star, hey, with the balloon in the 90s style, yes. With the balloon, me say me still versatile, Lord. With the balloon in the computer ride. Run away, John, a bigger than you running. While a bigger with a little one, if it's a runner, still versatile. Oh, this a with the balloon, and so me say, but this a with the pool. I'm on 28 from the veteran school. And don't you be no god of good. So me say that this a with the balloon. You know this a with the balloon. But I tell you star, yes. With the balloon in the 90s style, yo. With the balloon, me say we still versatile. Run away and tell a bigger stuff you running.
A generous helping of surface noise, but not enough for me, really. That's you, Brown, on Weather Balloon, which is on Sampaloo Records. And before that, it was the Thrush Puppies in Session and May Queen. And the pig was May Queen once when she was a little girl at St Wahlburgers, Shipley, Yorks. And the photograph of that, one of my most treasured possessions. Going through the mail as I do the programme, as is so often the case. And obviously there have been some things held over from Christmas because I'm still opening Christmas cards. And here's Cheap Sweaty Fun 142, their Christmas show, which featured Tribute to Nothing, and at which they gave away a free single featuring Girls vs. Boys and Man or Astro Man. Now, why didn't I get one of those? Said he sulkily. What have I got for you next? Oh, this is Mould. Yeah, now, this is from a record which arrived from Funky Mushroom Records in the United States of America during the week. Mould, and a track with the irresistible title, Sonic Youth at Disney World.
My boyfriend and I went to Florida. We were cold and we were poor. We were from New York and we certainly had nothing better to do. So we went to Florida. We went to Bike Week in Daytona. We didn't have a bike and we didn't have a week. We didn't get Peter Fonda's autograph, which really sucked. All things considered, Bike Week was pretty lame, so we went to Disney World. We saw Sonic Youth at Disney World. They were dressed in black. They were dressed very retro. They were dressed very strange. No one in Disney World wears strange black retro clothes. So we knew it must be Sonic Youth. We followed them down Main Street, USA, into Tomorrowland and into Adventureland, through the Magic Castle. We wore mouse ears so they wouldn't notice us. Kim Gordon trying on Pluto's sunglasses. We saw the nerdy drummer eating French fries, but we didn't see Lee Ronaldo. We saw some woman with dreads, but no one in Sonic Youth has dreads. Turns out she was with Greenpeace. I didn't know there were any whales in Disney World. Just like Neil Young. Thurston told everyone about a great place to buy used jeans. We were confused. We liked them better at Disney World.
The puffback shrike, a small black and white bird perched on a masasa tree. He's excited. That's why the white back plumes are puffed out, strangely like a snowball.
Scatty, that's Lord of Hardcore and Attack the Dance Floor, and it comes from Evolution Records, the Post Office Box 1402, Cumbernauld. I played football in Cumbernauld, you know, in a team which also included Noel Edmonds, a few years ago now, it must be said. Hardcore Hell Volume 2, the LP. Before that, it was Mould on Funky Mushroom Records, an import from America, and Sonic Youth at Disney World. And the mention of Sonic Youth reminds me that one of the books I managed to read, or Beck's that I managed to read over Christmas, was one which had been around since September, Idol Worship, edited by Chris Roberts, with contributions from, let's see who, Stephen J. Malkmus, Thurston Moore, Kristen Hirsch, Mark E. Smith, amongst others. So, and good stuff in there, actually. I was supposed to write something for it myself, to be perfectly honest, but never got around to doing it. And I'm embarrassed that I didn't, rather disappointed that I didn't, too. This is Smog in Session, A Jar of Sand. That's Smog in session with a jar of sand, and tomorrow afternoon's sessions between 5 and 7 come from Sammy and Pet Lamb. And the other day I was talking to our Tom, and he was telling me about, I was talking about Funk Chunk Records in Ipswich, and he was saying, there's another excellent record shop just around the corner called Red Eye. So I went and checked that out over the holiday period and came back with this, which is on their record label actually, in the first release on it, which is, curiously enough, by Tom and Tom, Downforce. This is Downforce by Tom and Tom. I say it's the first record to come out of Red Eye Records in Ipswich, but in fact its catalogue number is Deep Red 2, so perhaps there's been a previous one that I somehow missed out on. This next is by Skip Bifferty. Now, old listeners to the programme will remember Skip Bifferty probably, because they were much featured on the programmes I did at the end of the 1960s. Top Gear, the programmes were called, and when they put out their only LP, I wrote the sleeve notes, and I was reading them again the other day, and pompous and self-serving they were too. My goodness me, I'm glad you can't read them. One of those lessons I learned too late, actually, not to write sleeve notes for records, because they do tend to come back and haunt you. But the LP has been reissued, thankfully without my sleeve notes, on Essex Records, and here's a track from it. It sounded pretty neat to me. Hey, Lordy Mama. From that golden year 1967, that's Skip Bifferty on Essex Records and Time Track. Now, last Friday, my only New Year's resolution really was, in addition to the usual one of trying to lose weight, but was to try and find somewhere that I can go on Friday nights other than to this small hotel where I have to go to in Paddington. And it's perfectly acceptable, a rather nice hotel, as a matter of fact. I mean, I enjoy going there up to a point, but you always feel you want to go somewhere where there are amusing people, you can sip a glass of red wine and talk a load of nonsense far into the night. and I've not really managed to do that over the past 2 or 3 years, and you get depressed about it. I think a number 3 man in the Melody Maker poll ought to be doing something more interesting than just trekking off to a hotel. But last Friday, I went to a hotel just around the corner for a change, because I didn't need to be in the place that I need to be in. Anyway, you don't need to worry about that, but a hotel just around the corner. Feeling fairly fed up, as you do, you know, and I got in there, and the chap behind the counter who was on reception, you know, a most amiable man, and we fell to talking, and it turned out that he came from Zambia, and he was astonished to hear that I knew something of Zambian bands, not nearly enough, and he did sort of say that he might possibly be going back to Zambia and could bring me some Zambian records back with him when he returns, and I shall certainly hold him to this, but just in case he's listening anyway, and I hope that he is, here's a record from Zambia by the excellent Shalawombe, one of the bands we discussed, and a track called Chinglo Golo. I'm sorry I mispronounced that, Stanford.
Ngelichona mwatwala kwa ndoa naliyansengerera chikandala lebayo ngelichona mwatwala kumbanza naliyansengerera chikandala lebayo chingolongolo chimwasenda chilikwi chisamende chimwasenda chilikwi ngelichona mwatwala kwa ndoa naliyansengerera chikandala lebayo ngelichona mwatwala kumbanza naliyansengerera chikandala lebayo ngelichona mwasenda mawelelo ngelichona mwasenda awelelo naliyansengerera chikandala lebayo era ishiya bale abesi basende iwekesheni kumupulira alatwalapwa iwekesheni kumasala kundola mayo amachona ya mukalale mulekitanga mwajikako balipi bane mwatanzira bala kumushi amachona akalale na vokali wa mabane etikala yakusha bapoloni abona lezi anga nali mukawoyi awo mukwai ebepetwaleni Bango
Well, apologies for messing up the title of that. I'd actually written it down incorrectly. It's Chingalongolo, and that's by Shalawombe, and it's from an LP which came out a few years ago, which may still be available if you want to track it down, called Zambia, An Introduction to Shalawombe, Amayenge, and More. And then it says Zambia in big letters on the front of it, and it's on, what record label is on? Mondeko Records. As I say, probably, well, you might still find one, I don't know, well worth tracking down, I think. What else was I going to say about it? Oh, Shalawombe, it says here, is a Bemba word, and literally means stay behind and gossip. What a fine idea. Here's another from the Thrush Puppies.
Get my face, Mr. When God's grace saves you, the guilt saves me, the shame. I can lie so well that a soul could tell, but the souls on here, busy dodging hell to see all the rails and wait the blame by your sailor. Stop for the golden gates. Are you sorry for me? Are you sorry for me? Are you sorry? I was punished for the strength of mine. Children can be so unkind. Didn't get my face. I wish you had. Then I wouldn't taste what I could have. The rails away the blame by the sailor. Stop for the golden gates. Are you sorry for me? Are you sorry for me? Are you Didn't get my face, Mr. When God's grace saves you, the guilt saves me, the shame. I can lie so well that a soul could tell, but the souls out here, busy dodging hell to see all the rails and wait the blame by your sailor. Stop for the golden gates. Are you sorry for me? Are you sorry for me? Are you sorry? You see all the rails and wait the blame by the sailor. Stop for the golden gates. Are you sorry for me? Are you sorry for me? Are you
A fine start to a new year of sessions, I think. Thrush Puppies, and that's called Guilty. Now Prophets of the City from their LP Age of Truth, and here they rap in Afrikaans, and frankly, because I don't know any Afrikaans at all, these could be terrifically rude words, but I suspect not.
My broertje kreeg een skot, toen was die zijn kop. Vandaar was een gangfight op onze blok. In fight tegenkomt die een gestrijerij. We een dop en een stop, all of a sudden greep iemand een stop. Een boer wordt geprikt, een jong wordt gestikt. Zonder dat hij weet was er nog een geskikt. Zo'n bullen die gefrikt en die schouwen. Nou zien zij net panga en baksteen houden. Nou een man zien het bloed wat spat en tap. En koppen wordt gekap en hard getrapt. En denk het was een gat en zijn zak geslacht. Nou als zijn pap geacht in zak. Gedacht wat die boeren was op pad. Nou wat allemaal verkak. Hij gedunk hij was hard. Nou als zij zwak oppak is bang. Maar die magistraat is zij krank. Zij is gevangen, zij gaat man, zij gaat hang. Was het een mistake of was hij een dagmeid of zoek zij een baas voor jou lighty? Zo lighty, tighty, partij is jou righty. Wat ik nu om te zeggen, zij was gewillig om te lee. But now you want to give me a stay, cause the baby is there. And maybe a day, raar een paar. Quadromon was je gaan. Zo, money, klaar niet. Ik is die vakie nigga maanden geleden was ik die is in die kapie is verhakie. Want zij het hier zaakie. Oh je mond moet niet spraken, want zij kan het smaken. genoeg van die. Ek praat op van de meid wat dink sy is kwaai, wat sy is hard deur die night.
gaat die zin.
Sy stak op,
Sy's fucked
en
up.
wat sy dink sy is wat met jou swart gaat.
The meaning, you know what I mean. The meaning,
I don't think so.
the meaning, you know what I mean. The meaning.
I don't think so.
Ek sê maar net wat op my mind is, plus of minus, as ek bewus hoe die liewe is. Som poepas brus,
En anders zoveel problems met een borrel en een kus.
punt nommer 3. Wie is twee gefriet en hy staat die? Hy droog sy eie mense apie. Hy is down met die national party. Een nieuwe Suid-Afrika, tyd en nog een kaart.
FW, draai om de kop om te praat, maar zij willen vote.
Dan maak sy vir jou laat, want hy is er nog een spaza van die staat.
Don't let FW,
Basilio, hy maak jou kop vrot. In sy oor is hy nog altyd de kapper en een hotnot. Hulle sponsor township violence en hulle gee vir smokkel uit sy license. Van hy weet die wijn, fok op jou brein. Maar dan vang sy kak en dan word sy gebleem. Die move is beplan, want sy gaat nou mang, want sy gaat nou hang.
want die fuck is een slang.
Away, om te sê, away. Sê vir my, wat sy wil hê.
Well, some of the words might have been rude words. That's Prophets of the City, though, from South Africa. And Dalla Flet 2 seems to be the title of the track, but the LP is Age of Truth. And I'm trying to hustle to go and do some programmes, or a programme or two anyway, on the Iberian Peninsula, because there are some interesting things going on musically in Spain. And probably end up with Danny Baker going instead, but, you know, we can but hope. This is one of the examples of that. This is from Dirty Boots on Elephant Records. Seems like Shadows stuff. On Elephant Records, spelt with an F instead of a PH, that's Frankenbooty is the title of the EP. The band is Dirty Boots, and the song was Seems Like Shadow Stuff, inspired, of course, by our very own Shadows, if you remember them. And there's another excellent track on this EP, which I must remember to play you next weekend, called She Didn't Shave Under Her Arms. But right now, it's 11:30 on 24-hour 1FM, and Lucy Williams has the news.
There's There's been a bitter clash between the head of the prison service and the prison officers' leader. Derek Luce says the prison officers aren't cooperating fully with the investigation into the Parkhurst breakout, but John Patel accused him of trying to blacken the names of local officers. The 3 dangerous men who escaped are still thought to be on the Isle of Wight. Tonight, police mounted a close watch on a Birkenhead family who had a phone call they believe could have come from one of the escapers who used to live near them. Matthew Williams. The caller said, "This is Matthew, bye-bye." Labour have launched a New Year offensive against the Conservatives by outlining their 3 main areas of attack. The Shadow Chancellor Gordon Brown said the party would keep up the offensive over big pay rises for the bosses of privatised companies. He said they were also hopeful of bringing about a government defeat over rail privatisation.
Nothing illustrates the unfairness and dogma of Tory policies than their plans to push up costs for homeowners while doing nothing about abuses at the very top, particularly in the privatised boardrooms, and then planning to ruin rail services by privatising rail for their friends.
But the Tories have vowed to fight back. The Treasury Minister, Sir George Young, says while there was disapproval over some of the increases for the chairman of privatised companies, the government would oppose any opposition blocking attempts.
Private business has to be free to make decisions. And what I don't think is acceptable is for government to intervene the whole time and try and fix the salaries in the private sector. And I suspect that's what Gordon Brown wants to do. But one wouldn't see the sorts of improvements in telecommunications, in energy, that we've achieved if government was always second-guessing those who are trying to run the businesses.
A cash and carry store has burnt down in the centre of Chester this evening, but firefighters prevented the blaze from spreading to historic half-timber buildings nearby. Police searching the cellar of a house at Fleetwood in Lancashire for a man who disappeared nearly 6 years ago. Henry Baines used to live in the house with his girlfriend and a male lodger and was last seen at a local pub in February 1989. 3 people have been arrested. That's it. I'll be back in an hour.
That's Hillbilly Devil Speak, new 7-inch single on BGR Records from Nottingham, and that's called Revenge of the Micronauts. If you listened to last Friday night's programme, I played a track from an LP which had probably been hanging around the house for a month or so, called System-ish on Meal Plateau Records. I really like this stuff. It does take a while to grow on you. It's from an LP called System-ish. System, and then I-S-H-I-S-C-H, as a matter of fact, on Meal Plateau Records. The band is Oval, or the ensemble is Oval, and that's Mediaton, I guess, like meditation, except with the second I missing from it. And I've been getting one or two messages from Les Dowson of Yasaba Records, and there's another one arrived through the fax machine this evening, and it's about Croatian rockers called Stella Maris. And I have to say that I've not actually heard them, so I can't really recommend them to you. But on the other hand, he wanted me to tell you that they were playing, and perhaps you could go along and tell me what they were like. They start the new year, he says, with gigs in London and Preston. On Wednesday, the 11th of January, they play the Adelphi Preston, and on Thursday, the 19th, they play at the Starfish Club, Dublin Castle, Camden NW1. And then on the 2nd of February, at the Bull and Gate in Kentish Town, also in London. And he says, New Year's resolution to get played on Radio 1. Well, if you send us a record, Les, I shall certainly listen to it. Of course, there could be one somewhere in the CD mountain, and if there is, well, I apologise for that. This is Smog, My Shell.
My shell, you laughed at
my jokes, they served you well. And when you crawled out of my shell, you stole my jokes, they served you well. And when you crawled into my shell, you laughed at my jokes, they served you well. And when you crawled out of my shell, stole my jokes and they served you well. Or should I take her back into my shell? Or when I think of what she did, how she lay, stinking buzzard hands, oh, I left her for dead. Stole my jokes and they served you well. Ah, you can't come back into my shell. You know I want you back into my shell, but you can't come back into my shell.
Really like that one. I mean, I've liked them all, but that one I like best. That's Smog in session, and it's called My Shell. And on Saturday the 21st, we've got a session from Urusei Yatsura. They're first for the programme. They'll be on with the Blue Tones, actually, so it should be a programme well worth listening to. And this is Urusei Yatsura. I say it rather well, I think, now. Probably incorrectly, but well, as far as I'm concerned. This is from their forthcoming release on Hipster Records. It is.
No
Catch their session on the 21st, Saturday, and that's Urusei Yatsura from an EP called All Hail Urusei Yatsura, or is it a mini LP? I'm not sure, but it's on Hipster Records anyway, and that track was called It Is. And, well, a strange coincidence, while I was playing, I opened another Christmas card, and it's from Pet Lamb, and they're in session tomorrow afternoon, yes, between 5 and 7. Another curious thing happened to me today, as a matter of fact, because I've been up about half an hour, and about 8 o'clock in the morning, I think, the phone rang, and it was Harvey Sid Fisher. Regular listeners will, of course, recognise this name and be impressed by this. And he was phoning up from California to tell me how pleased he was to hear that I'd been playing his records on the radio and to promise that he was going to send by return. I had to give him my home. I haven't got my number, I'm not quite sure. But anyway, I mean, obviously, I suppose if you know that as much as Harvey Sid does, then these sort of things don't present problems at all. But he's going to send me at the earliest opportunity his cassette of golf songs. He promised me this, and I'm sure he's a man of his word. This is Slipmat. Another one for our Tom. Great favourite in our house, at least in our Tom's bedroom in particular. That's Slipmat on Rogue Trooper Records, DJs Unite Volume 1. There are so many compilations around at the moment. Frankly, you'd have to work extremely hard to keep up with them all. And this is, what can I tell you, that track's called Hear Me. And it says here, 12 killer cuts from the top DJ producers in the hardcore, drum and bass, happy hardcore and jungle scenes. This is, or in just a moment, it'll be Wingtip's Sloat. But first...
And now, bits from last week's
This is Greg Proops, tantalizing your taste buds with a few tasty tidbits from this week's Bits from Last Week's Radio.
And here is our man of the moment, the Mississippi Strangler.
Happy birthday, dear. Oh, wait a minute.
What do you want? What do you mean, what do you want? You call me asshole.
Snakes. Do you live in a hot country?
Bits from Last Week's Radio, Wednesday, 9 p.m. on 1FM. Delicious.
1FM!
partly sunny and 90 degrees.
That's Wingtip Sloat on VHF Records from an LP called Chewy Foot. Slouching Towards Dallas is the title of the piece. And more of the in-sound from Way Out in just a moment. In fact, from a band from Austin, Texas on Unclean Records called... Well, you remember, if you're a regular listener to Kershaw's programme, you'll certainly will have heard him play records by Blind Willie Johnson. And incidentally, on Kershaw's programme this Sunday, let me remind you, Spearhead, Eddie Lejeune and the recently deceased Ted Hawkins in session. But Kershaw will have played you records by Blind Willie Johnson, as I say, and this band from Texas have called themselves Blind Willie's Johnson, and I think Johnson is another word for penis, frankly, and if you want to keep this laugh-a-minute stuff in the air, you could form another band calling it Blind Johnson's Willie, but I think perhaps you'd have exhausted the theme by then, if this band hasn't already. This is a version of Frankie Lee Sims' Married Woman.
Cause all I had to give
you love me, then you leave me. Oh, oh, that's a game that I ain't playing. First you love me, then you leave me. Oh, oh, that's a game that I ain't playing. Cause stop wasting time. Sugar. Make up your mind. Sugar. Cause my friends don't wonder if our love's no longer. And baby, I'm running out of lies. Cause something isn't right. Sugar. You're giving me a 6 for a 9. Sugar. You're not the same. Who is to blame? Cause JT just don't understand. Oh, why did you make me fall in love with you? When you knew you didn't love me too. This heart of mine is not a toy. Why you gonna treat me like a boy? Why did you make me fall in love with you? When you knew you didn't love me too. Cause all I had to give was joy. Why you wanna treat me like a boy?
Junior Tucker on Digital B Records. That's called Why. I should have followed it with Lonnie Max Why. That would have been a bit too obvious, though, perhaps. And before that, it was Blind Willis Johnson. On Unclean Records from an EP called Oops, and Married Woman was the title of that. And here's the facts from Caustic Records, and, well, they're after a bit of business, of course, but they may want to record your band if you're in a band, so listen to this. It says, I'm faxing you to give you some info on Caustic Records, a brand new London label dedicated to providing aficionados of left-field guitar bands and true music lovers everywhere a vinyl sanctuary from persecution. In Euro co-op style, Caustic is an Anglo-German venture and is hooked up with our cousins beyond the Channel for a two-pronged assault on everything safe and sound in 95. We're on the lookout for new talent, and if you could read out our address, perhaps one of the listeners will be among our next releases. So it's Caustic Records, that's Caustic, Post Office Box 6799, London, N16 5TX. And whenever I read out this sort of thing, it always has a profound effect on people's lives, as people always write back and tell me, so we've got 3 or 4 postcards as a result of this, sometimes even 10. Caustic Records, Post Office Box 6799, London, N16 5TX. Send them your demo tapes. Here's another from the Thrush Puppies, Tart Oblique Bint.
them. Take my lips, I'll never use them. Your goodbye left me with eyes that cry. How can I go on there without you? You took the part that once was my heart. Why not take all of me? Why not take all of me? Can't you see? I'm no good without you. Take my arms, I want to lose them. Take my lips, I'll never use them. Your goodbyes left me with eyes that cry. How can I deal without you? Go on, go on. You took the part that once was my heart. Why not take all of me? Why not take all of me? Can't you see? I'm no good without you. Take my arms, I want to lose them. Take my lips, I'll never use them. Your goodbyes left me with eyes that cry. How can I go on there without you? You took the part that once was my heart. Why not take all of me?
The best version of that old war horse you're likely to hear in your lifetime, I think. That's June from Chapel Hill, North Carolina on Squealer Records, 7-inch single, All of Me. Before that, the excellent Thrush Puppies, their debut session for the programme, particularly good, I think. Tart Bint was the title of that. Anyone for a paddle?
I'll just do a little warm-up, yeah?
Rather embarrassingly, I've never been exactly certain how it is that you say the name of these people. It's, well, it's, O apostrophe R-A-N-G, orang, I guess. An Ocean Ahead, that is, on Echo Records. And before that, it was, I've told you about that one already. Let's just press on, shall we? With Guitar Wolf. An undisciplined performance, I think you could say, and thrice welcome for that from the LP Kung Fu Ramon on Bag of Hammers Records from Seattle, Washington. That's Japan's Guitar Wolf with Jet Rock. And, of course, don't forget that in 37 minutes' time, 36 and a half, actually, it's going to be Westwood at 1. And another one of those programmes that seem to involve a huge number of people. I often wonder how it is that I manage to do these programmes without a posse. I mean, I suppose I would know how to pronounce the names of the bands whose records I play if I did have a posse. I feel kind of lonely at times, you know. You just look around the dozens of attractive and interesting people hanging out doing these programmes, and I just sitting here with a bad back playing unpopular records. Very strange. This is actually quite a popular record, as it happens. It's been around for a while, but it's so wonderful it is well worth playing at least one more time.